Imagine having a pivotal moment in your life, a moment that could very well define the rest of your life, or at least have a significant amount of influence over it. Your wedding. You found your beloved. You guys have gotten engaged. You spent months, possibly even years, planning your special day and your ceremony. You've picked your flowers, you've picked your vendors, you've picked the people who will stand alongside you, and you've picked the people who will be spectators and watch you declare your love for each other for all eternity. And someone makes that all about a whole nother couple. I would be pissed. Okay, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm above it all. If I've paid thousands and for this couple, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to have the day of my life, this moment, this pivotal moment and era beginning ceremony, and I've invited all my friends and all my family, and I've picked my dress and my husband has picked his tux, and we've done all the things in order to declare our love to the cosmos in every way you can imagine. And tabloids cover it, but they don't even want to talk about us. Even worse, they want to talk about people who aren't even here. They wouldn't have to worry about those people. They would have to worry about me sticking my size 8 heel in their throat. Because what you're not, you know what? Sorry. We're going to get to it if you haven't figured it out. Yet again, the tabloids have made Harry and Meghan the topic of discussion at someone else's event, and Harry and Meghan weren't even there. Today, we're going to get into an article in Feminegra. I'm going to give you my opinions, of course, at the end. So let's get started. Thank you for clicking on my video, and if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be taking a look at an article in Feminegra that details Peter Phillips' wedding, but the tabloids only wanted to talk about Harry and Meghan. I know that family is so tired of never having a moment to themselves. But what's so funny, not necessarily saying this is Peter Phillips' specific problem, but a family as a whole, they brought this on themselves. And unfortunately, when you are in a group or affiliated with a group, what they put out, sometimes you experience and reap when it comes back. And I think that's what's happening here. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and feel free to share so that more people can find us. Once again, this article is in Feminegra, written by Miss Historian, titled, Peter Phillips Got Married, but the press could only talk about Harry and Meghan. Now that is a headline. That's a great headline. Straight to the point. Great rhythm, great cadence. And the reason I point this out, because one, this is par for the course of Feminegra. They do everything really, really well. Very quality outlet, very high quality outlet. However, later we're going to reference an article written by Rebecca English, and it's for the purpose of having this discussion in this article. But the headline of that article is so bad, I had to take a deep breath to try to say it all in one breath. It kind of reminded me of that song Like You with Sierra and Bow Wow. I'll never find nobody. That song where everybody tried to say it all in one breath. That's what that headline is giving. And when we get to it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, Peter Phillips got married, but the press could only talk about Harry and Meghan because, of course, you would think a royal wedding would be the star of its own coverage. Stories about the bride's dress, the flowers, the bridesmaids, or as Nene Leakes would say, the bridesmaids, and the cake. Maybe a few heartwarming anecdotes about the happy couple. Instead, the build-up to Peter Phillips and Harriet Sperling's wedding repeatedly circled back to one topic that had nothing to do with the bride and groom, Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex. The Daily Mail ran a lengthy piece by royal editor Rebecca English explaining exactly why Harry is ducking today's ceremony. The headline says it all. Here we go, y'all. Prince Harry plans to duck cousin Peter Phillips' second wedding today after intrusive Hello Magazine photographers were invited to first nuptials in 2008. That's a headline. That is not a byline. That is not the first paragraph. That's not the introduction. That is not a paragraph on its own. That is a headline. What is wrong with those people? That literally took me by surprise. Now, I don't expect much, but small things like that, like just writing a headline, my goodness, if, and this is a big if because it would never happen, but if I were even interested in reading anything by Rebecca English, that headline would have turned me all the way off. My goodness. Here's what English reported. While Prince Harry is said to have not spoken in years to Peter, sources say the presence of his estranged brother, Prince William, and his wife Kate at the Cotswold event will inevitably have played a part. But the Daily Mail can reveal that Harry's strained relationship with Princess Anne's son largely stems from an incident some 18 years ago. The prince was furious following Peter's first wedding to Canadian Autumn Kelly in 2008 after he struck a deal with Hello Magazine to sell the exclusive rights for an estimated £500,000 without telling the family. Prince Harry was particularly annoyed because he had taken his then-girlfriend Chelsea Davy as a guest and had decided that this was the moment he would introduce her to his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, for the first time, a sign that their relationship was getting increasingly serious. Harry loudly complained later that the first he knew of the debacle was when a copy of Hello was delivered a few days later to Highgrove, his father's country home, and he saw it on the breakfast table. I know, if that's true, I know he gets sick of shit like that. That would get on my nerves. Like, it's one thing to struggle to be discerning with friends. You're bound to let a few bad apples in. It's just a learning experience. It's part of how you learn and grow and build your discernment. But when you have to watch your back with family, I don't think there is anything worse. There is genuinely nothing worse than the people who you are biologically bound to and emotionally bound to, more than likely, not having your back the same way you have theirs. But it's also one thing to not have my back, and then it's another thing entirely to be intentionally malicious or completely indifferent to my experience. That I can't rock with. Even family members and relatives that I just genuinely, you just don't always get on with people. You're related to them, but you're like, I wish you well and I'll always be there for you. But if I don't have to spend time with you, I genuinely will not. I'll miss you when you're gone, but I don't want to spend your time on this earth together. Like, there's some people you just feel that way about for whatever reason. But even people like that, I still have a thread of loyalty to. Like, I'm not a deceitful person anyway, so there's that. But if someone asked me to do something that would double cross or hurt or harm someone else, even if I stood to gain something, it's an immediate no with no consideration. Having family that you have to watch your back with and having family that actually wants to cause harm to you or is indifferent to the harm caused, that to me is a different level of evil. Not saying that, this guy's evil. I don't know. I don't even know if the story is true. But if we can take this at face value, which probably not, if it happened to be true, that has to get old. I mean, thinking of just some of the things Prince Harry said in Spare and in Harry and Meghan, the docuseries, and just some of the things we know to be true just after years of watching the royals, having to always watch your back has got to be draining. I wouldn't blame Harry or Meghan if they just were like, we're not coming outside for a year or two. I wouldn't want that. And I hope they never hear me say that, because that's not something I would want, because I like seeing them out and about. But can you really blame them if they were like, I'm sick of this. I need a break. Y'all know for many years I have commended Meghan on just being like, I'm going to go about my life and do my thing, because if I were her, the way we would have our own private island, and every time y'all saw me, I would have a whole nother ginger baby. I probably would top out at 25. Like, like, my God, you have so many people. I'm like, well, it's a private island. We wanted a population. We decided to make it. So that's a good job to have. But no, I wouldn't even be worried about this stuff. I wouldn't be studying these people. But I love that she's following her heart and still working in her passion. And both of them are still moving on with their life. But my goodness, the way it would take everything in me to not hold up with my handsome man and have him hold up with his beautiful wife and just say, you know what, baby, make a machine, press on. I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. But no, good for them that they've carved out a beautiful life for themselves and they're able to do the work they're passionate about. But my God, how much energy it must take to have so many checkpoints in place and so many, fail safes in place to make sure the people around you aren't double crossing you. And y'all know I'm not a fan of the Kardashians. I'm not going to crap talk them. I'm just not a fan of them for a number of reasons. But one thing I will say, before I became wise to kind of who they were and some of the things that they've done, I used to watch their show. And one of the things that I saw was just how often people would like sell stories about them or hang out with them just to kind of get some of their attention. And that has to be draining, to always have to double check if someone you meet was there on accident and it was a happenstance, or if they planted themselves in your life and they wish to gain something off of you. That's annoying. I remember one time I modeled in a car show very small thing. I modeled in a car show and it was fun. I love cars anyway. So it was a really fun thing to attend and get paid to attend. And a person I hadn't even heard from in like 8 years, like I went to school with them in middle school. They were like, hey, I saw that you were on the lineup to be at the car show. Can I get some tickets? Oh, by the way, how's everything going? I heard your grandma died. Rest in peace. And I read that message to my sister and was like, I don't even know how to respond to this very indifferent and very callous message, but also, hey, I want something from you. Also, I know something bad happened. I wasn't going to check on you until I needed something. I was like, oh my God. My sister was like, yeah, just don't even respond. And I didn't, but even that very small, like, this isn't even clout. This is just an entry ticket and it costs like $6. Not a big deal, but just always having to check check people's intentions has to be draining. We have to do that in our regular lives. Like, you never know why somebody could be in your life, especially if you have a certain type of career. You never know why someone's poking around wanting to be in your life. But my God, if you have some kind of like social clout and money and all that kind of stuff, you may as well hang it up. You may as well just have like a referral only friend group. Like, you have to be vetted several times over. Anyway, let's continue. So there you have it. Another convenient Harry subplot attached to a wedding that was supposed to be about Peter and Harriet. Maybe the hello story explains some private family tension, or maybe it is simply the latest recycled grievance being dragged out because Harry's name still guarantees clicks. Either way, the framing is obvious. Instead of letting Peter's wedding stand on its own, the Mail turns it into another story about Harry ducking the family. That also gets on my nerves because, yes, I also participate in conversation and dialogue around the royal family because of Harry and Meghan. You better believe if they weren't in that family, I would have nothing to say about them. Mum's the word. But I do talk about them, and many of the things we talk about are inferences or assumptions, or we have to draw our own conclusions sometimes because Harry's not going to call me up on the phone and be like, girl, let me tell you this. And you know what? Judging the fact that he has 400 extra pages that he took out of his book, I know he has a lot to say. And Harry, if you ever want to talk on the phone, I will talk on the phone. I don't care what time it is. I'm in Central Standard Time, the perfect sweet spot. I can talk to you day or night. You let me know. I love to gab. But what I will say is I'm quick to pick up a phone call and judge by the tone that, this is going to take a while, and clean a room in my home. You just let me know. But if either of them ever want to chat, I'm here. But since I don't know them personally, they're not telling me their business, so we can draw our own conclusions. But I think there is a line there. You should always make it clear when you are talking about the facts of a situation and when you are now interjecting with your opinion. Pushing off your opinion as facts or making assumptions and then creating a story out of it, that's a whole different thing entirely. And it is very weird when people do that. I know I grew up not being allowed to say the word lie, but that is a lie. A lot of people will go ahead and just lie on you because they're banking on you not checking the facts. And the tabloids, they lie. So half the time when we're talking about what's going on in the royal family, we've had to check several times over that the source is verifiable. And as we know, Harry and Meghan don't talk to unverified and unidentified sources. We have a lot of fail-safes of our own as people who talk about the royal family to make sure we're talking about things from a factual place and then giving our opinion. And I do my best. I don't always succeed, but I do my best to separate my opinion and leave it till the end. But y'all see, I failed at that. But the point that I'm making is they love interjecting Harry and Meghan into these stories about the royal family, yet they claim they're irrelevant. And do you know how irritated I would be if not only you deflected from my wedding or you deflected from a special moment in my life to talk about relevant people, but now you're interjecting and overshadowing me by someone y'all claim is irrelevant? And if I can be overshadowed by someone who is quote unquote irrelevant, then damn, what does that make me? Non-existent? I would be pissed. I would be banging on the door of the Daily Fail and be like, take it down. Take it down in my wedding dress. I will be looking like the girl from Ready or Not because I would have choked up Rebecca English real quick. I would have been like, you better take it down right now and write something cute about me. Don't you dare play in my face, because they will really just say anything. Also, the whole Harry ducking his family. Yes, we can assume that there's probably tension here and there, especially since William and Kate are hell bent on leaking to their people in the press that they mad at Harry and Meghan about something again. William and Kate talk about Harry and Meghan more than they talk about themselves. Sometimes I wonder if they even remember the names of their own children because they only talk about Harry and Meghan. I know they'd be like, come here, girl, not Meghan. You come here. Like, they don't even acknowledge other people at this point anymore. Like, the obsession is gross and scary and wrong. So if Harry and Meghan chose not to attend, if they were even invited is a question, because I mean, if I haven't seen someone since 2008, why would I expect to be invited to their wedding and why would I want to go? There's already that. But then too, if the last time I saw you, if that story is true, if the last time I saw you, you kind of sold me and my family out, I wouldn't want to come to your wedding anyway, especially not your second wedding. Like, you've already shown me how you operate with your first wedding. I'm not going to sign up to get it done again. But side note, the whole Harry ducking his family, can people stop that? It is not ducking your family or ducking anyone if you recognize this is going to be something I don't want to attend. I might not even be invited. And I'm just not going to go. Choosing not to go somewhere where you are not wanted is not ducking your family. That is choosing your peace and knowing your worth. I don't attend everything. I actually had an aunt get mad at me because another relative, one of my immediate family members, did something really terrible, said something really, really horrible to me. And that's a whole nother story, but I cut them off. And I said, this is going to be a forever thing. I'm a Virgo. And so I cut them off. And one of my aunts got really angry that this person was having some kind of event. And she was like, are you going to be there? And I said, no, I didn't know about it. And she was like, well, I'm now telling you about it. And I said, 1, I didn't know about it. 2, I wasn't invited. And 3, I wouldn't have any interest in going. There's just too much going on and I have no interest in going anywhere where there's going to be nonsense. When I tell you this lady acted like I said, I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. Like, she lost her. Well, we're family. We got to do stuff for each other. I said, it's interesting that we got to do stuff for each other trope only extends to tolerating disrespect, but it never extends to proactively avoiding it or even making amends when you've overstepped. That do stuff for family only matters when it's time to tolerate. It never matters when it's time to say, hey, I'm not going to cause harm, or if I did, I'm going to do what's right and be accountable. It's crazy. The stuff we do for family should start with proactively avoiding hurting each other and should also start with accountability. I don't think we should ever get to the point where we're having unending tolerance. Do you? And she was like, it's not unending tolerance to love your family. I said, oh, I love people from afar very well, like yourself. Child, I ain't heard from her since 2024. It's not ducking your family when someone is just not part of your life anymore. Having, a biological connection to someone can be a good thing, but it can also just be a byproduct of being born into an established family unit, which we all are. I might not rock with these people, and I also might not. And you know what? That's fine. I also give people grace to not have to deal with me if they don't want to. I'm in full support of, I'm not for everybody and everybody's not for me. And if you don't invite me somewhere, I'm going to trust your judgment on that. And I'm going to pray that we're aligned and go on about my business. And also, not every environment is for me. Saying that someone is ducking a wedding that they may not have even been invited to is actually kind of insane. You have to start there. Imagine having a wedding and I pop up and I'm like, hey, Church Nelly, I didn't want to pop into your wedding. I didn't want to duck you on your wedding day. And you're like, I didn't send you an invitation. So it wouldn't have been ducking me. It would have been respecting my wishes. Like, mind you, it's a wedding. So anytime someone shows up, it's not a backyard, shindig or barbecue or whatever. A wedding, you usually have seated placements. You have a place and a spot for everyone. You have food for everyone. You have party favors for everyone. You have a name card for everyone, a place card for everyone. Like, each individual person in a wedding that's invited to a wedding is acknowledged in some way, and you pay per head. And as someone whose wedding extended to 100 people more than what I intended to be there, that is expensive. That's real expensive. And if I didn't invite somebody, that means I probably didn't want to feed them. And we haven't spent any time with each other in the last 5 years. So why would I invite them to this special moment? There were people who hadn't even met my husband expecting to be invited to my wedding. Why would I invite you to a wedding if you don't even know the groom? That would be crazy. That's so crazy, especially when I got one of them big old Southern families. Hell, we had a lot of people there. And I expected the people who knew us to be there, but people who I didn't know since middle school, why would you be there? So saying that Harry is ducking his family when in all actuality, he might have just not been invited. And also he might have had no desire to go. And that's also okay. That doesn't make either party wrong. It means both parties are grown-ups who have lives. There's that. Anyway. The article goes on to say, can we be honest about what is really going on here? The press and the palace have been using Harry and Meghan to drum up interest in this wedding, and it's pathetic. First, they said Harry was not invited. Then they claimed Peter did not invite him out of loyalty to William. Pause. Loyalty to someone else on your wedding day is crazy. You don't get to determine who someone else is close with. And also, what kind of brother would say, hey, I know we're both related to you, but I want you to be more related to me? Like that in and of itself would make me pick a side. But I typically do not pick sides when it comes to siblings. I don't pick sides. I have nothing to do with siblings going to fight and they're going to get back together. They're going to fight. They're going to get back together. And if they never get back together, none of it had anything to do with me. I would never intervene if a sibling is having a problem, unless someone is being caused harm. So in this situation, knowing what we know now about William and Harry, I would absolutely say, hey, William, you were wrong. I'm going to invite your brother. If you don't want to come, you ain't got to. If that's what happened. But let's continue. Then the story changed to Harry declining because William would be there. Then it was about Harry holding grudges from Peter's first wedding. Make up your mind. Why does it even matter that Harry and Meghan were not there? You would think a royal wedding would be the star of the show. Instead, too much of the coverage became Harry this and Meghan that. I know they get so sick of that, but that's also kind of funny. And the hypocrisy is staggering. Look at the double standard. Meghan faced nasty commentary after royal biographers and commentators claimed the late queen thought her white wedding dress looked too white for a divorced bride. We do not have the queen on record saying that herself, but the claim has been repeated often enough to become another stick used to beat Meghan with. Mind you, I feel strongly that the queen not only saw Meghan's dress, but she had to have approved of it. But then also hearing how the queen spoke about Meghan trying on tiaras and how complimentary she was of her and how she's always had nothing but nice things to say about her and how she's always wanted to do her best to accommodate Harry and Meghan in any way that she could. And she was always very much loving and rooting for them in some way. Hell, she even invited Meghan out on a solo outing. And Meghan was allowed at Christmas as a girlfriend. The queen clearly was very fond of Meghan. And if you don't take my word for it, which you don't, you could take Harry's, who knew both. It's his grandmother, for goodness sake, he would know. But then also, you could just look at the pictures. Clearly, she had a fondness for Meghan. Meghan seems like a really easy person to get along with and very enjoyable. And she also doesn't play into the hierarchy thing. She's just a respectful person. When she said she looked at Queen Elizabeth and she treated her with all the respect and reverence that she was supposed to and that she was due, and she was happy to do that. But when she spoke with her, she saw her as, this is my husband's grandmother. This is my fiance's grandmother. That probably bled through. People can feel when you're being genuine with them versus when you are just like, I want to be seen next to the queen. And that's exactly why Meghan probably got all those early invitations. The queen wanted to spend as much time with her as possible. It's probably a huge relief to be around someone who's genuine, who isn't trying to work you or trying to manipulate you or perform. That has to get draining. I'm sure she found Meghan to be a huge relief to be around. And seeing as how complimentary she was with her about picking her tiara, I'm pretty sure, having had to approve her wedding gown and all of that, she was very happy with this look, or else it wouldn't have happened. When people start talking about Queen Elizabeth as if she had zero input, it's crazy to me. But they seem to only do that when it comes to Meghan. They love making it seem like Queen Elizabeth was some kind of pushover. We have watched countless videos of Queen Elizabeth in the moment getting people together. She doesn't give a shit. She's the queen. If she didn't like Meghan's dress, Meghan would have had to pick another dress. Let's not act like Queen Elizabeth was just scared of the scary black lady and, oh, she can have whatever she wants, but I hate it, but I'm scared to say anything to her. Queen Elizabeth had no problem communicating her likes and dislikes and advocating for herself. Queen Elizabeth had a backbone. She played no games when it came to that. You were not about to mow over her. And if she didn't like Meghan's dress, Meghan would have had a different dress. I also don't think Meghan would have proceeded with a dress that the queen didn't approve of or didn't like, or there was some kind of pushback from a verifiable source. They had so many steps to building that dress. We even heard Claire Wade Keller talking about the dress and how they were very intentional with every aspect of it. Not even just the dress, but the veil too. Every piece of Meghan's look was intentional. You think she did all that without the queen's approval or without some knowledge of what the queen wanted? Get out of here. People who act intentionally obtuse get on my nerves. Let's continue. That is not Harriet's fault. Oh, let's go back. We do not have the queen on record saying that herself, but the claim has been repeated enough to become another stick used to beat Meghan with. That is not Harriet's fault. She looked lovely, but it does expose how selectively these so-called royal rules get applied. Yes, Harriet did look lovely. I love that dress. I felt like maybe the straps were a bit wide on the dress, but other the not the shoulders, but the straps, like the because it's a square neck. I did feel like they were kind of off. They weren't straight up. They were both kind of tilted outward. That was probably just because she was moving, but the dress itself was lovely and it suited her very, very well. I thought it was a lovely dress. Now the media is wheeling out Grant Harold and Richard Fitzwilliams to speculate. Grant Harold, the former royal butler turned professional anti-Sussex commentator, told GB News there would have been a discussion about it. They're close, Fitzwilliam added. Can you imagine what would happen if Harry and Meghan were not only asked but actually turned up? It would become a public relations omnishambles. Imagine if the Sussexes had actually attended. The coverage would have been chaos and presumably to the delight of the media, but they did not go, and yet the press still cannot stop talking about them. I even wonder if perhaps they were invited and they knew that's what would happen, and so they made the choice not to go. There's so many different possibilities, which is why it's dangerous to speculate. Try as they might, this wedding is not getting the clicks the tabloids want, so they keep dragging Harry and Meghan into it. It's desperate, and it proves that the royal reporters have nothing else to sell if they have to resort to talking about the Sussexes at someone else's wedding. Harriet's dress is lovely, though. I hope she gets left alone by the media and does not get weaponized in the media wars against the Sussexes. But if the tabloids have their way, she will be dragged into the same mess. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. So actually, let's take a look at this dress. This is lovely. Everybody looks lovely. That's really all I have to say. I mean, it's a lovely dress. This is very on trend for right now, too. I've seen several very similar dresses from brides recently, and we're coming out of spring, so I've seen quite a few. This is a very beautiful, a beautiful dress. It's going to stand the test of time, and she will probably always love looking back on her wedding photos. Both of them will, and I hope they have that joy and they don't associate their own wedding with the nonsense that's going on. I would hope they don't. But either way, even if they don't, the media is wrong as hell for always making everyone else's moments about Harry and Meghan. Now, what I will say is not Peter Phillips or Harriet Sperling. This has nothing to do with them, or at least not to my knowledge. Let me start there. I don't know if they had anything to do with any other risks going on inside. This is a family, so who the hell knows? People play telephone. People have input. There are so many things going on in that family that we don't know about. But let's assume they don't have anything to do with what the royal family did and has tried to do to Harry and Meghan. This is just one of those situations of guilty by association, where because they are part of an organization or a family unit, they get the whiplash from whatever happens based on karma. So the royal family has spent years using the media against Harry and Meghan, and now, just like all good things, it's come back to bite. Because they've spent so many years using the media against Harry and Meghan, now the media is obsessed with Harry and Meghan, which it doesn't help that they were already massively popular. So using the media against them only continued to work in their favor. It's just pure alchemy. But what ended up happening is now the royal family cannot be spoken of in the news or in the tabloids without mention of Harry and Meghan. They inadvertently made them more relevant and more famous than the family itself. Which, in my opinion, they were already going to be. I'm just going to be real. And it would have been smarter for the royal families to try to harness that and work with them, even if they had to kind of fade into the background. Regardless of how popular Harry and Meghan are, the hierarchy is what it is. And the main people threatened by Harry and Meghan are people whose position in the family and in the hierarchy is higher than Harry and Meghan's and cannot be changed. So the best thing they could have done was just say, hey, the public is what it is. But the more popular they are, the more popular we are as a family. But see, you don't have that mindset when you're petty and you're jealous and you're petulant and you are competing with the people within your own fold. Everybody loses when the family fights. Or as Jay-Z says, everybody loses when the family feuds. And this is exactly what happens, except for the people who cut the cord and cut the ties and go on about their life and continue to commit themselves to a life of service and happiness and peace. They're doing just fine. No offense to Prince Peter Phillips and Harriet. I hope they had a wonderful wedding. And the tabloids are wrong, but this really doesn't have anything to do with Harry and Meghan. So hopefully they address the people at hand. Hopefully the royal family recognizes how their antics towards Harry and Meghan is only hurting everybody else. Harry and Meghan are pretty much immune to it at this point. They're living their best lives. So anyway, y'all let me know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section below. I'm sorry for rambling. This was a lot going on today. But I'm sorry for rambling. But you guys, let me know your thoughts. First of all, let me know your thoughts on her dress. What did you think of her dress and the wedding overall from what we've seen? And what do you think about this issue? Let me know in the comment section below. That's all I have for y'all. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.